Welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. I'm Dax Holt. Over there is Adam Glyn. We are the Hollywood Raw podcast. Together, our powers combined equal Hollywood Raw.
Equal. One of our power. Yeah. One of us life want to be equal. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, buddy. Today we're going to do a little something different. We've been talking about this for a while. And just never kind of got around to do it. But there's a lot of people inside of our private Facebook group, Off the Record, that have tons of questions. We can't always get to all of them. So we said, let's do an episode where nothing is off limits. You can ask us anything you want. And so we posed this question inside the private Facebook group. So I'm sorry if you have a question for us and you want to ask it on the next episode of this, you're going to have to be a Facebook member because that's how we're getting these questions. But we posted it in there and said, you know what? Ask us anything you want. We'll sit down and we will devote an episode to you guys, to the listeners of the podcast, to what you really want to know or that you've had stored up in your mind and want to get out. And we're going to answer them today. So, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, the only thing I will not talk about is how I grew up as a hermaphrodite. So that part I will not respond to. I'll just say that over the back. Yeah, okay, no more questions. I was a hermaphrodite when I grew up, but besides that, game on.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to laugh at that. Like, is that okay to laugh?
What does that even mean? Sorry, what does that even mean? Like, what? And I said that, honestly, if you're watching the video, I said it with such a serious face. He's like, what? Before we get into, yes, my allergies are still killing me. Before we get into today's episode, Dax, do you have a review?
I do. All right. This one comes from Mustang Sally P. 5 stars. My new favorite podcast, Adam and Dax, You Rock Hollywood Raw, is my new favorite podcast. I'm a pop culture junkie, and you guys keep me informed. Love the rundown / the top 10 stories to start my day. Love ya in Colorado. Nice. Thanks, Sally. I'm from Colorado, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, you Coloradoans are so nice.
But they are nice out there. I love it.
Nice.
It's all my fam.
Do you want to get right into it, or do we?
Let's. Oh, you want to do one more? I can do one more. I got another one right here. All right. This one comes from Bobby302, 5-star senior fan. Love this podcast. Never missed your podcast. I'm a 70-year-old fan. Keeps me up to date on what's happening. You are the best. First podcast I go to. Always interesting. I'm a 70-year-old fan. I love all the insider knowledge. Who does not like gossip? This is my second review. Keep up the great interviews, Bobby. Oh, it stacked the reviews. That's why Bobby said you're a 7-year-old fan twice. It stacked the reviews because you double left it. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. Keep listening. Keep tuning in. I'm telling you, people love these raw rundowns, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, they do well. They do well.
They do really well. All right, let's jump into this.
Let's try to, we got nothing. So many questions from this, so let's bang them out.
All right, this is for our Nothing is Off Limits. Ask us anything. We're starting now. This first question comes from Kimberly Bryant. Said, for both Dax and Adam, have any of you had an encounter with a celebrity that sparked an unexpected and actual friendship? And then there's a second part, but I want to answer that one first. You go.
I mean,
you've had a lot. Don't lie.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, everyone knows. I mean, if you know, I text with Obama. It's just so funny if you have an Obama on your phone. Yeah, no, I've had some like really unexpected friendships. There's people who I met, and then all of a sudden was like I would say Michael Bublé is the person who, once I met him, like I knew who he was. I knew his music, and then I met him, and we became kind of friendly, and I just became a bigger fan of his music. But as far as like real friends, like, you know who I met the other day, and he might be. Should we talk about how he's going to come? He's supposed to be coming on the podcast, or
who are you talking about?
Who's the one who's supposed to come on the podcast? Well, I'll tell. It's Jesse Metcalf.
I was like, who are we talking about right now?
Yeah,
okay.
So I met Jesse Metcalf recently, and we just kind of hit it off. Like it was interesting, and he's supposed to be coming on the podcast. We've been talking about it, and he's like one of those guys who, like, we did stories on him in the past at TMZ, and now he's like later on, and we're kind of both older, and it's just weird to like look back and reflect and just say like, yeah, like we became friends. We're cool. I mean, there's a lot of athletes as well who I'm friends with who, you know what? One of the
out of all of your celebrity friendships, that's who you bring up, Jesse Metcalf.
No, I'm trying to think. That there's it sounds so douchey, dude, but there's a good amount. Like one of the baseball players on the Dodgers, Noah Syndergaard, and is an athlete. We became like friends. We met through friends, and he's a star player. When he played for the New York Mets, he was the biggest star in New York, and I was bringing him to events. And we'd go as friends, but he was the biggest star there. But the thing is, we bonded not over like celebrity or sports. We just bonded over like just dumb stuff. But I mean, I'd have to go through my phone. I mean, there's a good amount of celebrities who I became friends with. Like people, who I met recently, and we kind of hit it off. Now we kind of talk decent. Is like Peter Weber from The Bachelor. Like he's one of the few Bachelor people who I really like. And what I mean, like, it's like, I just like him. I just like the way he approaches fame. Like he's cool. Like he's there. He's like, he's just enjoying the ride. And, he's just like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I don't care. I'm trying to squeeze as much juice out of the orange as well. So like, he's a guy who became friends. Obviously there's like the Shaq and the others. Like, yeah, there's the Shaquille O'Neals, which you guys already know those stories, but I'm trying to think if there's like anybody recently who I became friends with. Some guys who come on the podcast, like, I mean, I know he's not the biggest star, but like Damien from MTV's TRL, like Damien Fahad, he was on, we became kind of buds. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any, I mean, there is some of the housewives of New Jersey. Like if I see a Melissa Gorga, like there's a lot of them, like I don't have their phone number, but if I see them at an event, it's like, hey, how you doing? We start talking and hanging out like a Melissa Gorga type.
So I feel like there's a difference because I feel that there's a lot of people that I know or that we have, I don't even want to say a friendship, but we're acquaintances, and like if we see each other at a party, we'll sit and talk, but I wouldn't call them up to hang out, right? You know what I'm saying? There's only a couple that I put into that category. Like Danielle Fishel made that category for me. So our random run-in was that we lived in the same area together and we worked out of the gym together, and we worked, like, I would see her randomly. So we ended up connecting, I think through Twitter or something like that. I just had like text her, oh, I just saw you turning on this street, whatever. And we ended up meeting up at the park, like my wife, her fiance, and just really hit it off. And they became like legitimate friends that we would go and do like sushi date nights out and hangouts. And, she was there at my daughter's first birthday, like all that level friendship. I was there at her wedding. Like, so there's that. And then, and I feel like I have that friendship with Dr. Drew as well. We met through when I was at TMZ and I was doing Loveline for him and all that. But there's a genuine friendship there where I was at his birthday party versus just people that I'll see that I'll know. And I may have their phone number, but I'm not calling them to like hang out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's hard. There's so many. I have so many acquaintances. I don't really do much. I mean, it sounds crazy. I work a lot, and like I'm a machine. I work a lot. Like it's pretty insane how much I work. So I don't have that much of I'd say that much of a social life. I mean, my social life is around work. Like I'll go to a work event. Like last night I was at an event and Mark Wahlberg was there, and we're friends. We're acquaintances. We, if I see I don't have his number, but if I see him, we'll talk. He sent me this stuff like clothes. Like it's not like we talk all the time, but when I see him, we talk, and he's good to me. And I mean, there's a lot of that. Like you go to these sometimes celebrity events and you see a bunch of, like, there's people like who are influencers who I know, who I'm friends with, like, but we're friends when we see each other, but it's hard to see each other.
That's what I'm saying. I feel that's more acquaintance friendship versus actual friendship. In my opinion, be like, because if if they're not inviting you to their birthday party or something, then like, Are you really friends, or are you just like people that know each other because you're in the same industry?
Yes, you're right. It's hard to say we're really friends because we're all so busy. So you only have so much time to get together. I mean,
Okay, we can't spend this long on every question.
I'll say this. I'll say
What?
David Spade is like we're genuine friends. Like
I was kind of waiting for his name to come up. I was like, how long are you taking to say David Spade? Jesus.
I don't know. Yeah, we're friends. He's a good guy. Like we always try to make time for each other when I'm in LA or he's in New York and we talk. I talked to him yesterday. Like we talk in the regular. We're just friends. We just bond and there's common synergy. All right, what's the next part of this question?
Next part, Kimberly said, also, can you name an incident that had a story that could have been huge, but was killed because the repercussions would have been very severe?
Dax, you answer this.
I'm trying to think.
Here's mine. And I might have told the story before if you're but when Orlando Bloom got divorced from Miranda Kerr, it was on a Friday. And I remember this day clearly. It was in the afternoon, and Orlando Bloom was it was announced they got divorced on a Friday, and Orlando Bloom was on Broadway. So all the paparazzi are waiting down the street because Orlando lived in Tribeca, and they're all waiting down the street to shoot Orlando from, they wanted those first shots from his divorce. Now, the rumor, and again, this is alleged. This is just what I was told. I don't have any proof to that. This is just the rumor that was going on, is that Orlando was having an affair with his publicist and Miranda hooked up with Bieber. And do you remember that Bieber and Orlando got into that divorce? I'm sorry, Orlando
and in the fist fight.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom and Justin Bieber got into the fist fight. I'm saying this and as I'm scared to tell you guys because I don't want to get in trouble, because this is just all alleged and this is just what we were hearing. So I was being told by my bosses to ask about the divorce and if Justin Bieber had any issues with it or had if he had anything to do with it. And that's a very tough question to ask after a news story breaks that there's, it's a very difficult question to ask. And I'm like, I didn't want to.
It's a lot easier to ask it from afar and have someone else ask it for you.
Exactly. I could tell you someone to ask, but I got to be the messenger. It's like, oh God, my stomach. And I don't want to be that guy. Honestly, that's not the type of stuff I like to do or want to do. But, I'm being paid. I'm kind of forced to do it. I had to do it. And right before this happens, I get a text saying, hey, don't ask. If you get Orlando, don't ask the question. 30 seconds later, Orlando Bloom walks out the door. And he starts walking towards the opposite direction of the paparazzi. Now, I walked down the street because I needed to get closer to the door, and I needed to get a closer shot of Orlando. But all the paparazzi were pretty much 100 yards down the street thinking that Orlando was going to walk towards them. I turn around. The paparazzi are just playing on their phones, just talking. They don't even realize that Orlando Bloom walked out. And then he starts walking the opposite direction. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? This is crazy. Orlando starts walking down the street. I just run up to him as I got out of the vision of the paparazzi, and I just put the camera up to him. I go, Orlando, how are you? How are you doing? Will you and Miranda be friends still? And he actually answered all the questions very nicely and said, she's always going to be family. We have kids together, and answered all the questions. And I thought I answered the questions, the tough questions, very nicely. He answered the questions very nicely. It was a very good video. The video did well, and I got actually a lot of credit for doing the job in a tasteful way. And I remember the paparazzi are all pissed, dude, we waited all day. You got there within 30 minutes and got the shot. And sometimes you get lucky like that. But I remember 30 seconds, or if I didn't get that text 30 seconds before he came out, I would have asked those really tough questions, and I don't think that interview would have gone so well. Or it could have went crazy and been a huge news story.
Yeah, no, true. I would say for me answering that question, and I don't think I'm revealing anything secret here. I think Harvey's talked about this before, but we had passed on the Michael Phelps infamous bong ripping photos right before the Olympics, or right around that time. And I think it was, I don't know how much longer it took for those to come out, but we didn't want to be the site bringing down the hero, the person who's, putting out the drug use photos. That just wasn't what TMZ was about at that time. And so I remember that would have had huge repercussions, and we passed on it. And I know eventually it came out. I don't remember which outlet decided to do it, but I know TMZ was not the only outlet to pass on it. It was going through numerous outlets, and people were just like, nope, I don't want to touch it. This doesn't feel right. It feels super dirty and gross. And so anyway, that would have had huge repercussions. So,
but then all of a sudden, like years later, we would be like, dude, it's legal. Who cares?
I know, but like at that time, you got to remember, this is what, 15, 16, 17 years ago. That was a big deal. All right. Anyway, Heather Barnes, she says, can you confirm whether or not TMZ, Harvey, or someone else at TMZ has a relationship with Jamie Spears, Britney Spears' dad, or Britney's management? It seems a lot of their posts were pro Britney being in a conservatorship. So I think TMZ, they have sources with all sides of most of these big stories. It's not like, oh, they've got a direct line to Jamie necessarily, but everyone's talking within all of these camps. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I was at TMZ and the conservatorship, let me be very clear. The conservatorship saved Britney Spears' life. So that's why everyone was so pro this, at least at TMZ, and me in particular, was because Britney Spears would have been dead today if it wasn't for her dad stepping in and taking control of her life. That conservatorship may have gone down a bad path over time or be looked at in a negative way over time. But when she first got it in place, she needed that. She was spiraling out of control. She was not healthy. And I would say to some degree, we still see remnants of that today. And I still question, should she be out of a conservatorship or should she have more presence in her life right now? Because I watch her social media and it scares me. So I would say, yes, people were very pro conservatorship because it was very valuable in keeping Britney Spears alive.
So do you think, and this goes with Heather Barnes' question, do you think Harvey was dealing with Britney or Jamie Spears? Like he was actually talking to them? Or, I mean, you got to imagine he was talking to someone on their team, but do you think
but you got to realize it's not, you can't look at it like, oh, he's talking to one specific person. Like you've got a room full of reporters who are reaching out to every person within Britney's camp, and I guess it kind of doesn't say because it's Britney's camp, but like people inside, people outside, like you're talking to everyone. You know what I'm saying? So you can't say, oh, there's just one leak. No, everyone wants to talk when it's a big celebrity. It could be dancers. It could be valets that drive people. It could be anyone within a celebrity's world that, can give you information. Anyway. All right. Amelia Fonoto, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Have you ever been paid by a celeb not to release photos, for example, like a post-surgery photo or something like that?
I've gotten paid on the street by normal people. Like, hey, can you like video paparazzi on me? These are normal people. Like, can you like paparazzi me on the street? I don't even push record, but I act like I'm paparazziing them. Mm-hmm. And then they record their friend, will record them getting paparazzied, and they'll give me $100. I've only gotten paid from a somewhat celebrity. From a celebrity was Terrence J. Paid me one time $100 not to film him, and he was with a girl. He's like, "Hey man, please don't show me, but here," and he gave me $100. I was like, "All right, cool. No worries, whatever you want." And then another time was saw a guy on a date with a porn star, and this was probably a normal guy, and it was probably like an escort type situation, like prostitution type thing, because that's what a lot of those girls do for extra money. And a guy was on a date with a porn star, and I noticed the porn star, I didn't notice him, so I tried to talk to her, and the guy's like, hey, here, like, do me a favor, not today, but I do want to give you money for your time, and he gave me $100. Like, yeah, thank you so much. I was about to send another paparazzi, hey, you want to make a quick $100? Just, it's like, yeah, that's the only times that happened. But one time, like, I've had celebrities come to me and say, and not pay me. They pay me in another way. Like, hey, listen, I don't want to do it today, but what's your number? Here, I'm going to text you. Here's your, and so it's not currency, but there's value there because I know I'll make money on the next one. Like, and I'm all about that. Like, I get that. Like, give me your number. Let's set up for the next one. So it's not paper currency, but in a way I consider that currency. Have you had a
no. There's no. I don't. but I'm not in the same position as you. Like I'm not in the like street in front of them, you know what per se. So like they don't have that opportunity to hit me up or know that I'm going to be talking about them. So
Yeah, but let me ask you this: has a celebrity got their photo taken and they're sent to the paparazzis? Oh, sorry, sent to the agencies, and the agency, or I'm sorry, the celebrity reach out to you and say, "Hey, listen, I know this photo's out there. Can you not run it and not pay you, but can you not?"
okay. There was, I can't say the name of the celeb though, just because it's not cool. But there was a celeb once who, there were photos from their honeymoon, and it was like, I would just say not the most flattering photos from their honeymoon. And they basically said, listen, please don't run it. If you promise you won't run it, I'll do like an interview for you guys. And so it was like, okay, like all good. Like we didn't really need the photos that bad and they weren't flattering. So it wasn't like a great set, but yeah, if you want to come on and like chat and do a little interview, then we can easily just kind of swap it and say, nope, just come on. So there's been that, but I think that was like literally the only time in my life that I remember any sort of trade for not posting.
Interesting. Okay. Give me
All right. Next one says, this is from Heather Gibson. What's your take on UK celebs and do you ever work in London?
I have never worked in London. I got asked actually to work the Cannes Film Festival in May coming up, but I turned it down because I was afraid that it was really expensive. Just not everything that went along with the trip was going to be very expensive, and it'd be really cool to go and experience. It'd be really cool for my social media, but I didn't know which celebrities are going to be there. And I didn't think it was worth the outlet's time. I was like, listen, I will go if you really want me to go, but I don't want to come back and leave you guys disappointed because I don't know if it's just worth your time or
it's
money.
not worth it. I think you made the right choice. It's not worth it. It is one of the most highly covered events in the world. It's like, again, going to Met Gala, but you're not going to get really interviews. You're not in a main spot to get interviews with people.
Yeah.
And there's so many cameras that it's already being taken. Like it's cheaper to stay here and license a photo from Getty than it is to fly out there and basically get the same thing for 10 times as much money.
Yeah, I agree. I'd actually had a company reach out to me and say, hey, we have this event in Texas. Do you want to go get Mark Wahlberg? Because he was at the event. I was like, listen, how about you just wait 3 weeks and I'll get him in New York for you? You know, like, and it's me just trying to help them out because I don't want them to be pissed off and think they overpaid for something that's not really worth it. I'm like, it's hard for me to say it's valuable for them. So yeah,
I would say, and I haven't covered a lot of UK celebs until they've become US celebs, if that makes sense. Like they're from London or they're from over there. However, until they make a name for themselves here, we're rarely covering. I think I've covered in my time like some people from like this, what is that, Sussex show? Only Way to Sussex or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the people on that show were so crazy that they'd go out wearing like ridiculous outfits or whatever, to the point where I had to pitch them out to the room. But other than that, if you don't know their name here, most likely I won't be pitching them out.
No, I agree. Actually, you know who I met yesterday? Nice guy too, Graham Norton.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, he's one of those guys.
He's got a big show.
He's got a huge show. He gets good names. So I got him yesterday, but he's like, you know, the UK people, celebrities, I mean, again, they have to be big in UK and come overseas, and I've gotten them. I don't just cover just UK celebrities, but I mean, some celebs are cool with it, some celebs aren't cool with it. You know, it's just how it is. They're not really anything different. Okay. All right, give me another.
Leslie Shore says, explain the payment process of selling stories, etc. How exactly do you make your money freelancing? Well, I can tell you one thing. So I think there's a misconception about selling stories. It's not normally stories that are sold. It's a tip that is given, because stories could be made up. You could make up a whole story from top to bottom. However, if you tip someone off and you say, hey, I've got this great story about so-and-so being pregnant or whatever it is, you tip off an agency and then they have to dive into it to figure out whether or not there is a story there, find out the details of it. So there can be a tip fee, which could range from, $50 to thousands, I guess, however big the story is. But you're not selling a whole story. It's just really a tip. And then everyone else has to do the due diligence and background and checking and to make sure it's actually factual, because if not, people will be selling dumb fake stories every day.
Yeah. I mean, from my experience, people care about stories, and that means like actual like news items if it's news, but they don't care about gossip. You can't really sell gossip. You have to have something that's like factually, or they're able to factually confirm it's true. Now, for me, I don't really consider myself I don't consider myself a freelancer. I have my own LLC, and I'm my own brand. With that said, it took me a long time after TMZ to kind of prove to these outlets that I'm factual, so they're not going to just take it from Joe Schmo. Like, you need to kind of like prove like, hey, this guy's credible enough. And I think for me over time, I remember calling one outlet for like trying to get in touch with every single writer that was on their payroll for like 2 years, and they never responded to me. Finally, after 2 years, one writer was like, you know what, I'll have a drink with this guy. And that night he came with me to have a drink. I was with another celebrity, and then he was just like, oh, he's really in the game. And it kind of changed things. And I wouldn't say changed my career, but like it's been beneficial. It's been good though. I mean, I have a good relationship for the outlets where it's like, I don't work for them, but we work together in some ways. It's fun. But like you said, there's no, you have to kind of prove that the story's true. As far as payment goes, it's like, you have to tell the outlet, say, I'm going to give you a story. You can't, and you have to have this kind of like agreement with them, like saying, I'll give you a story. If you pay, I'll tell you the story. If you're going to use it, you have to pay me, but you can't do it without paying me. And it's sort of like a handshake deal, and you're sort of like a trusted thing.
Because they need time to go and actually investigate it. So there's like this weird time of, well, I don't want to pay for something unless it's true. And the person's like, well, I don't want to tell you because you're going to steal it. So you really do have to do like a handshake deal, essentially.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and I've never gotten something stolen from me. Everyone's been pretty honest with it. Like they're fair with it. So, all right, what's another one?
Dale R. Moon says, how common is closeting in the industry these days? Is it worse in certain sectors? For example, I would expect it to be worse for actors as they would like to keep all roles open, or for musicians whose fan base, I'm looking at you, country music, tend to run more conservative. Honestly, I feel like it's changed a lot over the years, especially in the entertainment industry. I feel like it's actually helpful if you were to come out of the closet, really, because I think there's more people want to be inclusive and more industries want to be inclusive. So like they want to hire people with diverse backgrounds or diverse sexual orientations or whatever the case is. And so they're actively looking to hire more gay people, Hispanic, Black, Asian, like whatever you have to offer, they're looking for that. And so I think it's way less common than it used to be. And again, I'm speaking for the entertainment industry where I see people acting on television, that kind of thing. Country music, who the hell knows? That could be a whole different situation.
Yeah. Actually, there's a country singer, a popular one too, that was DMing a girl I know, saying he likes.
But that's not gay. I know what you're talking about, but he's not gay. He just
put a finger in his own butt.
That's just what he likes.
Yeah, it's not gay. It's just it's a man's finger he's sticking in his butt.
It's his own. People are like, what are you talking about? Basically, Adam has a friend there was a country singer who was sending her requests to touch him in the bum. Anyway.
So now there goes my blind item of the day. It's so crazy. But yeah, like Dax said, I think there's a lot of people are pretty open with it. I mean, I'm sure there's some older guys or older women that don't want to kind of people know, but I don't think it's that. I think it's pretty uncommon. What's weird, crazier is the media outlets are a little bit different. Like you remember when you had Perez Hilton and a lot of other bloggers outing people, and that is like a big no-no. You do not out someone.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dale continued and said, it seems like we see a lot of people in Hollywood come out these days, but there must be some closeting still happening just strategically. How common is it and typical where's that pressure coming from? Management teams, labels, fans, artists themselves? I feel like if people... Yeah, I feel like that's an old school mentality right there in management teams, telling people, oh, don't do it. Because then you see the success of people like Little Nas X, who's literally breaking down barriers, and becoming one of the most popular people on the planet and in the music game, and people are embracing that side of him. So I would tell people, if your management team is telling you not to be your authentic self, then you've got the wrong management team.
Well, Dax, let me ask you this. You have people like Julianne Hough, Madison Beer. Like Madison Beer is like, oh, I'm into women. I don't know if she's like, I don't know if she identifies as bisexual, but she's like, oh, I think women are hot too. And Julianne Hough goes, oh, I'm not straight. Is this coming from pressure from their team saying, hey, this will make news?
I don't know if it's coming from necessarily management, or is it just someone finally being comfortable enough to like talk about their own sexual desires.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like maybe it's just they got to the point. Like Julianne Hough, she comes from a super religious Mormon family. So I got to imagine her growing up, that was not something that would have been tolerated. And she maybe got to the point in her life where she's like, I don't need to hide that if that is what she likes, you know? And then I think there's a certain sector of people that might do it just because it's good for publicity or get your name in the headlines.
Do you think us being the only straight guys in entertainment news has been affecting our career? We should just say something about it.
100%.
Yeah, we're too non-binary. I don't know.
I think we could be a lot more successful if we were gay.
Maybe I should talk about say I'm a hermaphrodite. You know?
Stop it.
Okay, sorry. Never mind. That doesn't make sense. All right, let's keep on moving along.
Melanie Tillman, while out in the field, where do you go to the bathroom? Do you know where all the best public restrooms? Do you use a Gatorade bottle, adult diapers? Are there any female paparazzi? Do you use a pump up song? All right, I'll let you start answering those before we keep going.
That's a great question, Melanie. I know some really good, at least in New York City, I know amazing bathrooms. The Dominic Hotel, which used to be the Trump So, has a great basement bathroom. The Ritz-Carlton, if you look cool, they have a good solid bathroom. I should do a blog about the best bathrooms in New York City, mostly in hotels, where they're good, they're open. Like I've made them like offices. Like
have you ever had to take a dump like out in the field?
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah.
No. Like outside. Yeah.
No, I've never done that. No.
You
not. I mean, I'm not
outside.
Piss outside. Yeah, but that's like different. Like you had a few drinks and you're in between cars in the city and you're like, yeah, I'll just pee outside. Go number one, go number two. That's I've never done that on the street or by any means. I see people do it all the time. I
was gonna say I see it all the time.
I see it all the time. I've used the Gatorade bottle. I don't use adult diapers, but I've used a Gatorade bottle. But I have a lot of good hotels where to use the restroom. Is there any female paparazzi? There is. Not many. At least in New York, I know there's probably about like a handful. I mean, there's not as many paparazzi anymore, but I mean, there's really, I wouldn't even say a handful, maybe like 2 or 3. And I wouldn't say like they're full-time paparazzi. I think there might be even one that's even, if you want to consider full-time, at least in New York currently. There's some that do events, but I don't consider that paparazzi. Do I have a pump-up song? No, I don't. I'm paparazzi. I mean, it's funny. I just go out and do my thing. I'm like,
Adam's more of a chat. He talk like he'll call me. We'll be on the phone. He's like, hold on. I got someone's coming out. And like literally, I either get to hear him interview someone or I get hung up on because some celebrity just walked out the door.
I do that all the time with Dax. I'm like, hey, Dax, you want to hear me talk to this person? Watch this. And he'll be on the phone, like on speaker as I do an interview. Or I'll just be like, hold on, this person's coming out the door. And then, or I see this person and then just like hang up so there's no pump up song. Honestly, I'm so immune to it. Like I don't even think about it. In fact, yesterday I was running because I knew that Mark Wahlberg was going to this event and I was running to the event and I was running late, and all of a sudden I see some guys I know. I was like, "Yo!" I was like, "Come with me, follow me!" And they were filming something too. They work for Barstool Sports. And I'm like, "Yo, follow me, come on!" And they're like, "What?" And they started running with me like a block, and we just made it just in time. And they got to meet Mark Wahlberg. But I got excited because they were like, "Dude, that was a rush." I was like, "Yeah, it's a rush. It's pretty exciting when." When it works.
When they're in front of you. And then she finished this question by saying, have you ever met Hunter S. Thompson? If so, any good stories, or could you not get close because he was shooting at you? What does that mean? Who is that?
He's like the crazy writer. I don't even know if isn't he dead? I don't know. He's the one like Johnny Depp's obsessed with. I've never met Hunter S. Thompson. I don't even know if he's still alive.
So Sarah Essington says some celebrities look way different in real life versus what we see on TV. Have you ever walked right past a celebrity without realizing? How do you capture all the good shots if they can be hard to recognize at times? I'm sure I've walked past a lot of celebs that I just didn't realize it was them, and that's the reason I walked past them. But I do think that there are, I would say most times people look very different in person than they look on TV. You always hear about the stories about how short people are in real life versus TV, where you get like Tom Cruise, who's very tiny. When I met Pamela Anderson, she looked very different. Again, not in a mean way. Her skin just looked like it had many years of using makeup on it, so it didn't look like the healthiest skin. And I think that's what my eyes first went to, was just her skin. But she looked very different in person.
Yeah. Yesterday I saw Gal Gadot,
and she looked like a unicorn, didn't she?
I didn't even recognize her. She was wearing sunglasses, but she just doesn't like stand out to me. She was wearing sunglasses and checking. You'd be like, "What? She doesn't stand out?" I was like, "Yeah, she doesn't stand out." Don't get me wrong, very pretty. I'm sure. Like, she didn't look bad, but she just doesn't like, "Oh my God, it's Gal Gadot," because she's wearing these sunglasses. Another person I saw in person who I didn't recognize was who was the girl from big actress from Jerry Maguire?
Renee Zellweger.
Renee Zellweger came out of a hotel one time, and someone's like, we were just like, "That's her." We were like back and forth, like, "That's her. That's not her. Is that her?"
She also she shifted her look quite a bit over the years, so yeah. I can understand why you wouldn't recognize her.
I'm pretty good with recognizing people, especially like socialites and stuff. My eyes are getting worse, so I have to start wearing glasses soon. But like, usually I ride a bike and I'm pretty good at recognizing people. In fact, like a lot of paparazzi will send me photos of someone like, "Is this someone? Is this someone? Do you know who this is?" Or because someone came out and maybe had a bodyguard, but they couldn't recognize her. But usually I'm pretty good at that stuff.
Some of the women that like transform themselves with makeup can look completely unrecognizable when they're out in public.
I haven't had really any crazy circumstances or issues. Like, do they look really crazy? I mean, yeah, without makeup, you're not like kind of glammed up and stuff. Yeah, you just looks like a Jenny McCarthy without makeup. That's just all it is. Do they look bad? No, it's still Jenny McCarthy. So it's, I never where it was like a difference maker, if that makes sense.
Okay. Melly McQueen, who is the best celeb to run into because they are always pleasant and fun?
Dax
Holt?
No, I was gonna say.
Who is always pleasant and fun? I mean,
it's like Dr. Drew, because you have a relationship with him, so it's always fun to see your friend.
But I would. I mean, the couple times I ran into Paris Hilton, she was freaking awesome.
Yeah,
she's awesome because she's always fun. She's always cool. She's always pleasant.
I'll tell you what, I ran into Paris one time. Not last time. I ran into Paris at an airport, and I was covering it, and she wasn't that great about it. But because she didn't have makeup, she wasn't glammed up. And she's like, I was trying to talk to her. She wouldn't talk to me. And then all of a sudden, when I stopped, she goes, "Hey, I'm not in the mood today, and obviously I don't look good." She's like, "Can you just get me during the week and I'll be and she like got me back. So, but again,
pleasant, and the fact that she was still cool about it. There's a lot of people that could have just been like, "F you, don't shoot me now," and not even give you another opportunity, or not even explain what was happening. Just be like, "Nope, not into it," and be done with it.
Shaq is always great. Michael Bublé is always great. like and again, I know these people I said earlier, but like,
Okay. I'm gonna move on because I can't believe we're already 40 minutes in on this and we still had a ton of questions.
Finish all this.
Susan Silly Goose said, in your opinion, what is the most story breaking setup shots? Do you think they mean like what is the story that has the most? I mean, we're gonna say Vanderpump stuff, right? I mean, clearly the Scandival is clearly like the most set up stuff I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right. Corey Cobb, damn, you're an early riser, Dax. Yeah, I posted the question of like the ask us anything at like 4 a.m. So what is the business aspect in Hollywood like? How much of what celebs do and put out is curated to fit their narrative? Also, why do some celebs get such good PR like Selena Gomez, Tom Hanks? Is it personality or mostly their agents? Ooh, these are all great questions.
Those are great questions. That's a great question.
I think
I'll let you answer this and then give my.
So I think there is a lot to be said with sculpting an image. And when I think of sculpting an image, I think of someone like Taylor Swift. Yeah, she sculpted the shit out of her image and it worked really well for her. Every aspect of it was choreographed.
Explain to me and the audience how that's crafted. Like what do you
Well, she's had a team. She's had a team that she's worked with at the label, and they will decide what gets put out there to the public. They'll decide, how she's going to sculpt her music, what she's going to wear on stage, what she's going to talk about in her interviews with people. It was very famous that she never got into politics because she didn't want to offend her fan base because she had that country fan base. And so you start talking to, left, then you upset the right and like all this kind of stuff. And so I think hers was sculpted. I think there's other people out there that it's more about their personality, and that would be like more of a Jennifer Lawrence. I think Jennifer Lawrence has built her persona on her personality. She's very fun and quirky, and you see that a lot in her interviews. Is she will say something and she makes me laugh so much, and she just is relatable. Adele also, she's crazy talented, but her personality takes that to a different level. Yeah. And it's more about her interviews in the public that has now shifted the perception of her, where I don't think it's been like that for Taylor. I think it's been more of a manufactured machine style persona out there. Both work, by the way. Both work phenomenally. I'm just saying, I think one's more like Selena, also same, is on social media, she becomes relatable and people like that about her.
Yeah. Now, the answer to that second part of that question.
How do some celebs get good PR, like Tom Hanks and Selena Gomez?
Yeah, how are they're always the good guy. They're never, even Tom Hanks, who, let's be honest, his son Chet does ruffle some feathers, but he's never looked at as a bad dad. It's just, then Selena Gomez, always, I wouldn't say bad press, like they're always there's always in the good graces of the.
I feel like if you come out and you are like the good person in Hollywood, that lasts for a long time. Like Jennifer Aniston could do no wrong. Reese Witherspoon could do no wrong for a very, very long time. Like I think the first Reese Witherspoon.
How do you get that sort of reputation?
I think you're likable. I think you're a likable person. You don't have negative stories come out about you. You're not a dickhead in public. You're not doing stuff to piss people off. You're not starting up arguments with other celebs. I think there's a lot to play in here. You're not getting bad publicity. Everything that goes out is good publicity, and that doesn't mean. But you're a part of that. If you're a good person, I think that happens. You know what I'm saying? Like Tom Hanks isn't losing his mind on set and causing a Christian Bale type moment. So being a good person, I think, goes a long way, and it tracks. And you're not hearing nightmare stories of working with him on set.
Yeah. Okay.
But I also think you've got a good PR team. And you've got them when he does do something like, Tom Hanks donate $2 million to tsunami relief. Or, I don't know if that has ever happened, but I'm just saying, I think his team also capitalizes on that moment and will put that out because it makes him look even better.
Yep. All right. Next.
Next, this one is from Chris Lowry. You guys talked about being the buffer at TMZ. Who decides what gets released to the public and what gets put in the vault? I'm sure you've seen plenty of things that made you chuckle or were kind of weird, but was there anything that triggered more extreme emotions, like a story you found beyond hilarious or one that made you viscerally, I can't say that word, viscerally mad? And how do you deal with that? That's a good question.
Great question. Your answer.
Yeah, I was the buffer, but you got to realize when I say buffer, it was because I was looking through, 1,000 photos a night or in the next morning, and I was only going to be putting out 5 to the public that day. So I was the one flushing through to see what's good and what's not. In regards to things that made me like have those extreme emotions, the one that I really remember was the Jennifer Hudson story and how her entire family was murdered in one day. That one I remember just being really, really sad. And it's not like I knew Jennifer Hudson. I knew her from American Idol. I knew her from Dreamgirls, but I didn't know her personally. And I remember reporting on that story, genuinely feeling very sad and hurt for someone who had to lose so many loved ones in her family all in one killing.
Yeah, that's a tough story. That's like a story that hurts. It's like, oof, that's a blow.
Yeah. That one made me really sad. I think in regards to mad, I mean, I'm sure there is something. If I really had the time to sit down and think about it, I could probably think of a story that's made me really pissed off. I just don't have it on the top of my head, unfortunately.
I was pissed I had to bury a video once, and this was
at a what?
I had to bury a video once, and the video I thought was so funny, so tell me what you would do in my situation. I get Sarah Silverman. Again, Sarah Silverman, comedian, fun. I said to her, sometimes you ask news story questions, but sometimes I didn't like to ask clickbait questions, ask something like, hey, what's your comment about this story? So Sarah Silverman was walking in on Bowery. Mm-hmm. I said, Sarah, are penises ugly? And she goes, no, not at all. I go, really? She goes, let me see yours. And I jokingly pull out my pants. I pull my pants out for her to look in. And she goes, come on, let me see it. So I pulled my pants out, and she looked at my pants, and she saw it. She was like, no, that's not an ugly penis. You have a pretty penis. And the video was really funny. And she just looked at my penis. It's like, yeah, no, you have a pretty penis. And then just walked into the building. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, listen, this video is really funny. I didn't pull it out on the street. I just pulled it I pulled my pants out so you could kind of look in if you wanted to, but you had to go out of your way to look at it. And she did. And she gave me a nice quote on it, which I use on my LinkedIn about, hey, Adam has a pretty I called the bosses over there, and they're like, yeah, bury that video. Don't do anything with that video. I was like, oh, okay.
That sucks. That is funny.
I should have just kept that one for me because that's a great video.
That is a great video.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rebecca Castiglione says, what is a typical day like of Adam Glyn? You get up, go over whatever you want. Do you have a schedule of possible celeb sightings you go to? How much time is spent working on the podcast? How do you wait, what? What
do your parents and friends think of your career? What do your parents and friends think of your career? So what's a typical day like for me? I basically wake up and I kind of know what celebrities are sort of in town. How do I know that? I just kind of know who's doing the TV shows, but I also have just a lot of sources around. Mm-hmm. Actually, one of my contacts is calling me right now. And just kind of let me know what they've seen, what they heard, what's going on. So I kind of know what's going on in New York City that day. I kind of start sort of whenever I want. It depends. If I put myself in positions where I know I could run into people. So I mean, I'm a little. Am I early riser? Yes and no, I guess. Do I have a schedule of possible slip settings? If a celebrity has an event, I know about some events that are going on. I'll call my tipsters, my contacts, or they'll call me and let me know. We're just my tipsters and contacts. We're friends, so we just bullshit with each other. So they'll just kind of let me know what they've seen, what they heard. How much time is spent working on the podcast? A lot of time. I mean, we spent a lot of time on this
We do.
podcast.
We
And it
really
doesn't
do.
show it, according to my accountant. My accountant's like, "What are you doing all this time?" I'm like, "Listen, I know we do this for you guys." Yeah, my day is very chill. I schedule my day around the gym because I always want to try to get a workout in. But then I deal that with like celebrity schedules if there's events. Um, and then I try to get some time where like I know I could just kind of roam around and say hi to people. I know it's really weird. It's a very every day is different, so there's no rhyme or reason. What do my friends and family think of my career? I don't know. I mean, I guess they're cool with it. Like they're just like what it's just like I think they find it kind of insane, like the things that like, oh my God, there's Adam with Mark Wahlberg again. There's Adam with Kevin Hart. So it's just like I think they're just sort of used to it right now, but people don't understand my job. And and I understand that they don't understand my job. It's one of those things where like I found a niche. I'm very niche. There's not many people that kind of do what I do. And actually there's pretty much no one. So it's very niche, but everyone's like supportive in their own way. Everyone tries to help me. So
I think our families would be more supportive if we were raking in ridiculous amounts of cash and we're like Heather McDonald level podcasters right now.
Yeah, we pretty much don't make anything on this podcast, guys. We spend a lot of time and the return is not that great, but the return is just hearing the thoughts and the appreciations from you guys. So that's it.
All right.
Yeah. What's next?
Jennifer Bell, I want to hear the whole story about the Howard Stern internship from Adam.
Jennifer, good question. I worked at the Howard Stern show. I was at K-Rock and went to Sirius with them. I was, if you guys remember Artie Lang, who's, he's still around. He's just Artie was from the same hometown as me. So at the time in college, I did stand-up comedy all through college, and I was an obsessive Howard Stern fan. And I wrote to the website for years trying to get an internship, and I never did. And I knew Artie the entire time, but I just didn't want to ask him for help or even ask the people who I knew at the Stern show for help. I wanted to get it on my own. So then one summer I applied, after applying for like 3 years to the Howard Stern show and never getting back, I applied to another show called Opie and Anthony. And they got back to me right away and like they looked at my resume like, yeah, you should be with us. And I got the Opie and Anthony internship. I got an interview and I got the internship. And I told a friend of mine who worked at the Howard Stern show that I got this Opie and Anthony internship. He's like, what are you doing there? You should be at the Howard Stern show. I was like, I've applied. No one responded to me. He goes, let me talk to them. 2 days later, he hits me up. He's like, yeah, you have an interview. I got the interview and it was pretty awesome. And I started work at the Howard Stern show. And I was at Howard's last year, K-Rock, and I went to Sirius with him. I worked in the bullpen, as they call it, with Gary and Will and Jason, if you're a Stern fan. I'm still very close with Baba Booey. He's a great guy, Gary Del Bate. Howard, I didn't really have much of a relationship with. Like, the only times I got to really talk to Howard were during the writers' meetings. And that was the one thing that was really cool about the internship is that the interns got to be involved during the writers' meetings once a week. It was every Thursday after the show. And you could see the writers pitch ideas for the show. But I remember, I realized this was my time that I could be around Howard. So every writers meeting, I stood up. I was the only intern always pitching ideas. Now, they didn't really use all of them, but I always submitted questions. I always submitted ideas. And Howard, I think, got a kick of it. Like, hey, who's this guy who's got balls to kind of speak up? And they didn't really use many of my ideas just because I think of my position there. But I got a few things on the show, like the biggest man boobs and all that stuff. And I wrote a lot of questions for Howard when they had all the whack packers, but it was an incredible internship. Went to Sirius, and like I worked with other interns who weren't fans of the show, but I knew the show in and out, and I was like a huge fan. The biggest issue was, and it actually gave me like extreme depression, was at the end of my internship, they hired like 3 or 4 different people and not me. And I was just like, and I was a great intern. They can't say anything bad about me. I did my job, and I was dead broke at the time. And I was waking up at 3 a.m. just to get there. And I was just crushed that other people got the job and not me. And they got like different type of jobs because at the time K-Rock and Sirius merged. But it was like, I'm glad I didn't get the job because I would have been stuck there. And it worked out to be the best thing that I didn't get a job there. It took me a while it took me years after to get a job in the industry, but yeah, it was great and also a little bit tough.
Okay, that was a good story. I mean, I've I've heard it, so I know it. But no, I think, but I do think it's
if you're a Stern fan, I mean, I became friends with Beetlejuice. I met all the Whackpackers, got to meet a lot of celebrities. Like I know all, like, I'm cool with all of them. I'm still friends with all, like Benji and Sal and Richard and all those guys. And Artie was a good friend of mine. And I was doing stand up at the time too. So I was like, I'd be with Artie on the show all week, and then I'd go on the road with him on the weekend and open up for him in like Philly. And Artie was one of the biggest comedians in the world at the time. So it was during college. So it was like, it was my senior year of college. So like when Thursday and Friday nights people are going out partying, I was at some like Ramada Inn in like Philly or upstate New York opening up for Artie Lang in front of like, 1,000 people. So it was like a different sort of college experience.
It's dope.
It's kind of cool. All right, listen.
Regina Santangelo says, "What are your thoughts on Alec and Hilaria Baldwin?"
I'll say this: I've met Alec Baldwin a few times. Not a nice guy. One day he was nice when I think there was some sort of protest in New York City and he wanted to talk on camera, but if he knew I was TMZ, he wouldn't have talked to me. But he was talking to like a few cameras. But I remember the video got pushed out because it was like one time Alec Baldwin actually talked to us. Another time Alec Baldwin, I went up to him. I said, "Hey man, listen, I work for a company," which he wasn't a fan of. And I said, "Why don't we do a video? Because everyone thinks of you this way. Let's do a fun video." He looked at me and spit down at my feet. And then I walked away. The funny part is Hilaria Baldwin worked as a host for Extra for a little bit. Now, when I worked for this company, they shared an office with Extra because it was the same production company. So we shared an office. So there's signs of this company and Extra all over the office. Now, if I say this company, you guys sort of know what I'm referring to. When Hilaria Baldwin would come to the studio or come to the office, we had to take the signs off the walls of that company that I worked for because Hilaria hated it so much. Do you know how crazy that is? Oh, she's coming. Take the signs off the walls. Like, really? Is it that big deal? Like, come on, let's be real. And I mean, that's the only thing I really know about. I don't really deal with them.
I am not a fan of them at all. I think Alec Baldwin is one of the biggest dicks in Hollywood. Not a fan. I just think he's a rude person in general. Put aside some of the, situations he's been in, I just think he's a dick, and I'm not for that. I like people who are successful but also kind and generous, and I'd take Keanu Reeves any day over hanging out with Alec Baldwin. All right,
Dax, let's do one more because we have so many questions. We could do this another time. So
I got like 3 more on here. Can we just do these last 3?
Okay.
Because I know that there's a bunch more on the site, but like I've 3 more that I've already pulled and ready to go for us. Okay. So Yvonne Encore says, "How do you get approached to speak on a celebrity or situation in a documentary, and what's the process like?" I get approached for this all the time. I mean, this is why I'm in like random Kardashian documentaries or random stuff. They just hit me up. They either reach out to me on Instagram or will send an email to like my website or whatever, and then they just say, "Hey, we saw you talking about Britney Spears in the New York Post. Do you mind talking about it on this program?" So I'm always filming random documentaries, but that's about it. It's just they reach out and I'll respond, and next thing you know, I've got a film crew here at the office taping me. So nothing too crazy. I just normally ask for like, "Hey, give me a heads up. What do you want to talk about?" Because some of this stuff, if it's from 10 years ago, I need a moment to go back and refresh my brain about what the hell was happening in Britney's life 10 years ago, or what was happening in the Kardashians' life, or whatever the situation is. So, and the process is good. I mean, most of the time, like I see you guys commenting that you're seeing me appear on some television show in the UK. I can't see them. Like, they don't normally send me a copy. So like I sit down and I'll film with them for a couple hours and answer all these questions. I don't know what the final edit looks like. You guys are seeing it and I'm not. So if you ever do see one, shoot me a link, and I'd like to watch some of these things and how they actually turn out. Hopefully I don't look like a dickhead talking about these people. All right. Michelle Coral Ray says, "Have any celebs contacted you pissed off about anything you said on TMZ or any pictures, videos you released? And if so, who?" You ever have that?
I had not over my videos. I've had celebrities not pissed over my videos, but they were pissed at like contents TMZ did, and that was a tough thing for me because you, Dax, and everyone else in the office would kind of shit on people, and I remember it's like you guys didn't realize that I was the one who actually has to deal with these people, so it made for an awkward, uncomfortable situation a lot of times. Not calling you, I mean, you kind of get the idea. I'm not saying you specifically, but you know, in the room, you guys would sort of sometimes joke about celebrities, and then I have to go on the street and deal with these celebrities, and they'd be pissed off at me and treat me like a dick. I'm like, guys, like it was very uncomfortable. So I never had someone pissed off at a video I did. I think I've had sometimes like a celebrity pissed off at a question I asked, and then I apologized because I was like, hey man, I apologize. And I mean, I'm not going to get into that story. That's a whole nother story. But from a video that I personally did, no. But from content that TMZ did, and then I had to kind of get the backlash, yes. Which celebrity? It happened all the time. So
yeah, I'm trying to think if I had any. I had more people reach out saying thank you than I had pissed off.
I had thank yous too. Don't be wrong, but I had a lot of pissed off as well.
See, I think people went out of their way. No, I mean, there's got to be people. Shoot. I guess I was just more of a nice person. I presented nicer stories, so I didn't get a lot of shit on social media. But I know that there's been people. I honestly, I can't think of it right now. Shelly Buttram says, do you recognize any of our names? Like, there's certain names here that stand out because I do laugh out loud. For instance, if you see one of us comment on a different site or like, hey, that was one of the Hollywood Raw guys. I say, yeah, you know what? It's not so much names. It's your guys' avatars, your little photos that you have. That I'm just a very visual person. So like when I see one pop up over and over again, that's what I recognize versus just like if I was to see Shelly, your name on another website or whatever, it's like, oh, I know that that avatar, that one pops up. Like, who is it? It's Melanie McQueen. She's got like the avatar's like blonde hair with sunglasses. I see that one all the time, and she also comments a lot on our private Facebook group. So that one pops up a lot in my feed. How about you, Adam?
I don't honestly, guys. This is gonna sound such a douche. I don't sit at a computer ever. Like this is the only time I really get to sit down and use my computer. I'm always like standing up and moving around. My whole day is pretty much standing up and walking just for what I do for a career. So I don't get to like really just like dive into the phone and really like look at this stuff. I always try to check the Facebook group. Obviously I check it multiple times a day, but like it's so like quick, because I'm on the street dealing with homeless people with like peeing, and then also dealing like the craziness of New York City traffic. It's just a wild day. So I don't really have that much time to really sit. So, but I recognize like people, like when they ask me questions, like it's like, oh, there's Michelle, there's Chris, so it's not like, I wouldn't say I sort of do. There's people in here that I've known for a really long time as well, because they would come by my Dax chat when I was at TMZ. Yeah. And I would see their names throughout years doing the Dax chat, and now seeing them make it into here. So there are certain names that pop up that, yes, we do recognize, or I'm like, oh, that's fun that they're asking these questions. So anyway, all right. Cool. Well, that is it. We are going to save the rest of your guys' questions for another episode of this. This was fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you feel left out and that you did not get to leave a question, then go join our private Facebook group called Off the Record. And that way you can be a part of any questions moving forward, or you can just ask us on a normal daily basis in there anyway, because that is your direct line to us. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. Make sure you go leave us a review on iTunes. Scroll down to the bottom of our show page. Leave us a review. Make sure you leave your name so we can read it out like we did at the top of this show. You can follow us on all social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can follow the show, obviously, at Hollywood Raw, but you can also follow Adam at Adam Glyn. You can follow me at Dax Holt, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye. What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.